We all think of our DNA as this fixed blueprint we're handed at birth. But what if I told you that's not the whole story? What if your life experiences, everything you do, feel, and see, are literally writing a second story on top of your genes, changing how they work? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into.
To see what I mean, just think about identical twins. At birth, they are perfect genetic copies of each other. Their DNA code is, for all intents and purposes, exactly the same. So here's the big question, right? If their genetic code is identical, why do they grow up to be such different people? One might get sick while the other stays healthy. Their personalities can end up worlds apart. What is going on there?
Right. So this whole puzzle of the two twins, it's the perfect way to start unlocking these secrets that go way beyond our basic DNA.
And here's the answer. It all comes down to these tiny little chemical marks, almost like sticky notes, that get attached to their DNA as they go through life. See, every different experience, the food they eat, the stress they go through, it adds or removes these little tags. And these tags decide which genes get turned on and which ones get silenced. So how do these little tags actually work? Well, this brings us to this incredible field of science called epigenetics, and it's all about how you can control your genes without ever changing the DNA code itself. The easiest way to think about it is like this. Your DNA is the hardware in a computer. It's fixed, it's the physical machine. But epigenetics, that's the software. It's telling the hardware which programs to run and when to run them. It's this whole layer of control sitting right on top of your genetic code. Now, to understand this software, you've got to meet one of the main players, a protein called a histone. Just imagine your DNA is this impossibly long thread. Histones are the tiny microscopic spools that the thread winds around to keep it all neat and packed tightly inside our cells. And here's the really cool part. These spools act like dimmer switches for your genes. When a little chemical tag called an acetyl group attaches to the spool, it makes the DNA loosen up. Suddenly, that gene is accessible. It can be read. The switch is on. But if a different tag, a methyl group, attaches, it causes the DNA to wind up super tight, hiding the gene so it can't be read. The switch is now off. Okay, so this isn't just some abstract idea. These switches are getting flipped in your body all the time. Let's look at how something as simple as forming a memory can physically rewrite how your genes are expressed. There's this classic experiment where scientists put a rat into a new box. It gets a little mild foot shock, and pretty quickly it learns to associate that box with fear. So the next time they put the rat in the box, even with no shock, what does it do? It freezes. A memory has been formed. And this is the crucial part. This wasn't just in the rat's head. That simple act of learning, of creating that fear memory, caused a real physical, chemical change inside the rat's brain cells. An epigenetic switch literally got flipped. So scientists went in and looked directly at the hippocampus, the memory center of the brain. And what did they find? A big increase in histone acetylation. That's the gene on switch we were just talking about. This epigenetic change helped turn on the very genes needed to lock that new fear memory into place. Now, this same exact mechanism isn't just for simple memories in a lab rat. It also helps us understand the really deep, lasting impact that stress and trauma can have on our lives. So there's this one particular gene called FKBP5. You can think of it like a thermostat for your body's stress response. It helps control the stress hormone cortisol, and it's what tells your body, okay, the threat is gone, you can calm down now. And this is where it gets really powerful. This is where genes and experience collide. So if a person has what we call a risk version of this FKBP5 gene, and they experience severe trauma in childhood, that experience can epigenetically change the gene. It keeps the stress system on high alert, leading to a much higher lifetime risk for developing PTSD. Now, this all leads to one of the most wild, most mind-blowing ideas in all of genetics. Is it possible for these epigenetic marks, these stories written by our lives, to actually be passed down to our kids? Let me just put that another way. Could the things your grandfather went through, the fears he had, could they be biologically living on inside of you today? Get this, an incredible experiment looked at this exact question. Scientists taught male mice to be afraid of a smell, kind of like cherry blossoms. Then those mice had pups, and the results were just astonishing. Their children and even their grandchildren were born with a heightened fear of that specific smell, even though they had never, ever smelled it before. They even used IVF to make absolutely sure it wasn't a learned behavior. So how on earth is that possible? Well, it turns out the fear was found in their sperm. That epigenetic mark, that change to the gene for that specific smell receptor, was passed down directly through the father's sperm. The experience was literally written into the next generation. So, after all that, what does this mean for us? For that age-old debate of nature versus nurture? Well, it means we have to completely rethink the whole question. What it means is that our DNA is not some static blueprint that seals our fate from the moment we're born. It's so much more exciting than that. It's more like a dynamic, living script. And our experiences, our choices, our environment, we are the editors, constantly tweaking and rewriting that script every single day of our lives.
Maybe the best way to say it is this. Nurture, your experiences, literally becomes a part of your nature. The line we thought was so clear between them, it's way, way blurrier than we ever imagined.
And that really leaves us with a pretty powerful thought to end on. Every day, your life is writing a story on your genes, a story that affects your health, your personality, and maybe even the lives of people who come after you. So what story are you going to write?